What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So as we head into 2024, of course, the discussion around Nintendo's next generation device will continue to ramp up. And yesterday, a certain strange rumor started to make the rounds that had a lot of people talking about the cartridge slot and even cloud gaming, but we'll go over that stuff here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Sony as they're looking to set up 2024 with a number of third-party titles, as well as one that we're waiting to see an update on for quite some time now. And we'll also be going over Microsoft's big announcement at the Game Awards. Had people very, very excited, but it appears we could be waiting quite a while to get our hands on it, which brought up the conversation of when is it too early to announce a game. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. We're gonna start today with Square Enix and Star Ocean Second Story R. Of course, the remake for Star Ocean, the most recent one, which is a very, very good game, and I recommend people giving it a shot, especially if they've been curious about just the Star Ocean franchise. That's probably one of the better titles to recommend to someone. But the next one up, I guess, would be wading into the PS2 territory with Star Ocean till the end of time. Well, that was asked, actually, of a producer at Square Enix, which we can see this posted up. This is over on Noisy Pixel, with the response to a Star Ocean 3. What about that one? Saying, the Star Ocean team started this project from the point of making all the games in the series playable on current platforms, so we're fulfilling that goal. Of course, we are aware of the expectations of a remake of Star Ocean 3, but we're in the process of further promoting Second Story R, and at this stage, nothing has been decided on what to do next. We want to think of something while we are receiving warm feedback from everyone, but we cannot give any answers at this time. I can't make any promises, but I hope you will keep an eye on the Star Ocean series over the long term. And I think with Second Story R in particular, Gem Drops actually developed that alongside of Square Enix, did a very good job, but that was coming from the PS1 era where visuals obviously weren't as good as the PS2, where we had more and more details added in, and it started to get closer to kind of that cinematic experience that would just take more effort and more time to do a full remake for, and I'm sure Square Enix is kind of weighing that out right now, but Till the End of Time is viewed as one of the better Star Ocean games, and I think it'd be really, really cool to see that get a full-on remake. It's technically playable right now on like your PS4, your PS5, but I think it'd be fun to have a new release even years from now towards the end of the generation, just because Star Ocean with something like Second Story R in the remake, I think absolutely figured it out. Also, it does look like Masahiro Sakurai is back to developing games, or maybe he never actually left. Now, this was discussed on one of his more recent videos, which we can see this posted up. This is over on Nintendo Life. It transcribed it saying, "As for me, I'm still creating games for the time being, but I'm also making this YouTube channel." All right, there you go. So apparently he's still working on something. Of course, people are speculating that he's back in with Nintendo and back in with Bandai and maybe rebooting all of the Smash franchise, because that's kind of the only path forward, I figure, for that series, is to go back to basics and start with a fresh idea in that franchise, big collaboration. Otherwise, maybe he's doing something with Kid Icarus, new IP. There's a lot of possibilities, but yeah, it wouldn't shock me that Sakurai maybe got talking with Nintendo again and figured something out, and I guess he's still keeping the YouTube channel going. So, of course, people will be keeping an eye on his channel to see if they can pick up any hints as to what he's working on. Oh, and here's something fun for the Zelda community. It appears the Decompilation project for The Legend of Zelda the Minish Cap has reached 100%. They have a nice little bar or line graph here to kind of show you its progress, and kind of as they got towards the end, obviously took longer and longer, but they did get it done, and that means you could see this game maybe getting ported to other systems, something like that. So it be getting a PC port, they can do a lot more with the code, the visuals, gameplay. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen now, and it's really fun to see these decompilation projects go from obviously 0 to 100% for the possibilities really to open up. So we'll see what, I guess, happens from there with PC ports, or who knows, maybe they'll move it to the Dreamcast. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with one piece of news that really took over yesterday, later in the afternoon, evening, and it had to do with what else but Nintendo's next generation system, which has actually been kind of quiet recently, and it makes sense. Again, as we get into the new year, Nintendo starts to look forward, getting past this holiday season, we'll start to hear a bit more, some rumblings around what Nintendo has planned when it comes to the release, like whether it's a trailer or a big event, and then, of course, the timing for the system to come out, and more importantly, the games, the launch lineup. Well, there is some interesting stuff that's kind of getting thrown out there right now, and one part of it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but let's take a look. This is posted up over on Twitter from Hot Girl Videos 69, who has an interesting backstory as to how they were able to get Nintendo information in the past, but they say next-gen Switch console at one point in its development utilized the cartridge slot on dock only, with handheld mode being entirely digital. Mobile device controller support built into dock. Backbone-style Joy-Con attachment devved and abandoned. So I don't believe we will see a cartridge slot on the dock only. I think we'll see Nintendo continue along with what they're doing now, which is everything's pretty much in the tablet or handheld portion of the Switch, or the Switch 2, or the Super Switch, whatever you want to call it, and it'll go into a dock, do the exact same thing, where it does not need to rely on a battery. It can kind of kick into another gear, and you get higher resolution, better frame rates, or frame rates and resolution that can hold up and maybe match whatever you're doing on your TV there, whether it's 4K upscale, 1080p, what have you. I think a cartridge slot on dock only would pretty much defeat the entire purpose of what the Switch is. Although I guess technically Nintendo did that with the Switch Lite, so who knows? This just sounds like, if it is correct, something they played around with in development, in R&D, and then it got scrapped, and it was basically now just a story that gets passed around as, hey, remember when we tried to make the dock the only way you could play cartridges, and they kind of laugh at a table. Additional info here, it's believed information on current next-gen Nintendo dev kits likely will leak before Valentine's Day. Supporting information from previous Bloomberg report and rumor that Nintendo had worked on and perhaps now has a first-party cloud gaming service. They go on to say that the cloud gaming service originally utilized a cloud gaming service developed by a Korean company, white labeled for use by Nintendo. So I do look at this and say, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if Nintendo looked into cloud gaming, as I feel like it would actually be negligent for them to not look into cloud gaming, kind of with how things are shaping up right now with Microsoft, Sony, Amazon, basically all these gaming companies, Nvidia, are doing some form of cloud gaming. And Nintendo already has cloud gaming through third parties on the Switch, and people must buy these things because they do keep showing up. And I'm sure Nintendo does have the statistics, even if they're lower, which we assume they are. It's still people buying and using that service. And Nintendo just kind of future-proofing, or at least being set up in the event that cloud gaming does take over. They don't want to be left behind. I know Nintendo is viewed as technologically behind everyone, but they're also the only ones really utilizing mobile technology in the way that they are to be able to have the Switch exist in the first place. I mean, who knows? Maybe there really is a future where the entire world has access to the internet at any time with no data cap restrictions. Speed is just an afterthought because it's just always fast and you're constantly connected. And yeah, in a world like that, Nintendo would hope that they did do research into cloud gaming. I think we're well off from that, and I feel like Comcast will forever have an iron grip on me at this point when it comes to my internet connection, but I wouldn't mind a future where I could kind of get away from all of that and just be always connected. But we'll see, probably like 20 or 30 years from now. But all of this, minus the cartridge slot, sure, I could see that, but it's just, we're in this position now, especially this week, where it's just quieter on the news cycle, to where something like this can kind of jump up and spark a lot of conversation online, but it's kind of just that at this time. Let's get into 2024. Let's see what kind of movement we get from Nintendo after this holiday season, because I think if they're going to launch it in 2024, as I think many of us are anticipating, they're not going to wait till like 2 or 3 months before. I think they're going to try to spread it out a bit, get some marketing going behind it, and try to roll up to what would be one of the biggest launches they've ever had for a system. Next up, let's talk about Sony and 2024 for the PlayStation 5, which, from a first-party perspective, not exactly the strongest at this time, but we'll see if maybe Sony has a big showcase lined up for the first quarter of the year. But they did put out a blog post kind of detailing some of the things to look forward to, and that did include Stellar Blade, which is a game we've been looking to see an update for, specifically a release date. But let's head over here to PlayStation blog. We can start at the top. They are showcasing Tekken 8. That's coming out, they show here, January 2026. Unfortunately, I'm not a big Tekken person. Josie, I think, did a pretty good job explaining it during the Spawn cast, as she did get to go to an event and play the game and capture footage, and she put a video up on her channel as well, kind of detailing this. But hey, I understand Tekken fans really excited for this one, and I guess Sony said, hey, you know what? We run Evo, so we're gonna put the fighting games here and put them up on a platform so we can build some hype for our event. They have Deep Earth Collection for PS5 accessories, which includes plates for the old PS5. All right, then. That is, that was November 3rd, right? So, okay, interesting. I guess they just wanted to show that off. So, there you go. They have Sterling Silver that's launching starting in early 2024. Helldivers 2, that's February 8th. I'm interested in this game, but seems like no one else really is. I talked to people about this, and they go, I guess. So, hey, it's a third-person squad shooter. I'll at least be trying it out when it releases, and hopefully it turns out to be a good game. Pulse Elite wireless headset, that is starting February 21st, 2025. It is a weird time when we have Sony dropping so many accessories and plastic pieces for your console in here. But then we have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Of course, really looking forward to this one. Square Enix, of course, partnering with Sony on this. February 29th, 2024. Follow that up with Square Enix as well. We have Foam Stars, which Foam Stars has previewed better than I was expecting at different events. I think Summer Game Fest, people came away from it pretty happy with it. And then to the beta, people seemed okay with it there too. So we're still waiting on a release date for it, but there you go, 2024. Rise of the Ronin, I am excited for this one. That is March 22nd, 2024. I mean, I really like Ghost of Tsushima. Still kind of playing into it here with Rise of the Ronin, this from Team Ninja. So yeah, I'll be checking that one out. And we have Stellar Blade. So Sony has now put the 2024 release year on it. We don't have a release date yet, but this is the first time we've really had indication from Sony that, yes, it is coming out in 2024. So I'm very curious to see how this game turns back up. Like, is it going to be part of a showcase? Are they going to have its own state of play? I think that's very possible, where they really show it off for like 20 minutes, dive into different mechanics, set up different parts of the stories with the characters, and then give us that release date. It does feel like Sony is trying to set up Stellar Blade as like a key pillar for 2024. And I do wonder if that's one they'll try to get out there, maybe in the first half, if not over the summer. And then, of course, they did round out the blog post with Destiny 2, The Final Shape. They do own Bungie after all. That is June 4th with the new release date. Remember that to get pushed back a few months. And they're looking for that to hopefully do really well. Kind of feels like all of Bungie is riding on that. Otherwise, here comes Sony and they're going to take over. But I mean, that's Sony's 2024 at this time. I feel like most of us expect a showcase with first party games. The Last of Us Part 2 remastered, that is coming up in January as well. But even that, a lot of people are just kind of looking past, and they're just like, okay, where are the new games? What's happening here? So I assume something is coming, but who knows? I mean, 2023 wasn't like a strong year from Sony from first party perspective. We had like Spider-Man 2, VR stuff with Horizon DLC. That's kind of it. So here's hoping that they have something big to show off first quarter of 2024. Not only set up that year, but also sort of the second half of the generation, as, I mean, guys, 4 years from now, we're going to be going into 2028. And you know what the rumors will be about then? The PlayStation 6. Next up, let's talk about Microsoft's big reveal at the Game Awards, which was Blade. This, of course, being done by Bethesda and Arcane Leon. And I'm expecting some pretty big things out of this game. They're very talented there, but it does sound like we're going to be waiting quite a while to be able to play this game. And we can see this posted up. This is transcribed over on VG Charts from Xbox Era with Jeff Grubb, saying, right now, internally, they're expecting that to be sold on store shelves and digitally in 2027. That is the year that they're aiming for that game. And I think most of us kind of expected Blade to be well off in the distance. In fact, we were kind of talking about maybe being a cross-gen game, especially after we heard that Microsoft could try to kickstart the generation a bit sooner, some thinking maybe even holiday 2026. Then we would be maybe a year into the generation, the new one, for Blade to come out. And that's if it meets that milestone. It could end up in 2028 at this point. And it brought up the conversation of, was it too early to announce that game? When we hear about games 4 years ahead of time, Is that too early? Well, technically, it doesn't do any harm if you announce a game early if you're able to get it out the door. There are times where you hear about a game way too early and it gets canceled, in which case, yeah, that was just a bad idea overall because now you just have people who are frustrated in gaming. Think of The Last of Us Online. That was a disaster. But when I look at things, I look at certain games like Splinter Cell, right? Remember that game got announced? Very clear that they announced that remake to hire people. And that's one of the reasons you see these games get announced early, because how else do you tell them the game you're working on without making the announcement? Otherwise, the person who declines the job after you told them what the game was, maybe it leaks out there and all of a sudden the internet's talking about it. And really think about something like Metroid Prime 4. If that was not announced as early as it was in 2017, when clearly it wasn't ready to be announced, we still probably wouldn't know that that was happening. We would have gotten Metroid Prime Remastered probably earlier as well, by the way. That, I think, got held back a bit too. And we would have probably been speculating, wait, does that mean that, is there a Metroid Prime 4 coming? And maybe they would have announced it in 2024, and it comes out, like 6 or 7 months later. We're like, this is amazing. But this whole time we've known about it because they decided to announce it in 2017 when the Switch hype was through the roof. People were excited and they're bringing up Metroid Prime 4. And now here we are at the end of 2023, just hoping that it's coming out next year in 2024. So it really depends on how confident you are in the game, and I guess even technically how far along you are in it. You could be pretty far along and it's still not out for another 3 or 4 years. So let me know what you think about the idea of announcing these games too early. Does it bother you? And would you rather some of these companies wait up until maybe half a year before they announce it ahead of its release? And then our last bit of news, let's talk about some fun speculation here when it comes to the GTA 5 source code that is just now public. GTA 5 at this time, it's just like open source. And because of that, people are of course looking through the code and they're finding some interesting lines pointing to maybe Nintendo's system. Well, at the time, it was like the NX and they called it NX64, which I can't show you the code because sure, that's technically part of the leak, but I can show you the tweet here that mentioned this. And this was from Buzz, who says that the Switch ports confirmed, codes lines has been found, indicating that there is a GTA 5 Switch version in the works. It is definitely coming. Okay, so I saw this and I said, that's an interesting conclusion, but again, I'm not going through the source code and like picking it all out. It's like, okay, I guess. But some other people decided to go through it. For example, over on Reddit, they said that this post is based on analysis of leaked GTA 5 source code files, saying the Nintendo Switch was likely never in active development. Could have been in pre-planning, for example, as they were maybe anticipating what Nintendo was going to do with the NX, right? And apparently, as they are going through this code, they start to pick out points where, okay, we're going to do this until it was revealed that it's going to be using ARM, in which case they seem to have backed off. Now, that doesn't mean that the Rage engine wouldn't eventually find its way over, as of course Red Dead Redemption is on the Switch, so it did make its way over to ARM, and I guess technically, sure, GTA 5 could still show up. Is it worth doing now? It's hard to say because, again, a lot of people are kind of looking at the Switch like, okay, this was a good system. I'm ready for the next one. How out of character would it be, though, for Rockstar and Take-Two to show up with the next system from Nintendo? Go, okay, guys, here's GTA 5. As they are launching GTA 6 like the following year. I feel like I'd rather just hold off and get GTA 6 on the Switch too. Also, for what it's worth, from what I've heard, of course, being thrown around behind the scenes, it does seem like there was more than just it being ARM for getting GTA 5 on the Switch, and we've speculated that it could have been file size. If you download GTA Online now, it's grown quite a bit. And I think that was one of the biggest hangups, is just GTA Online in general on the Switch and making sure it was compatible and worked completely across the board. So maybe to Rockstar and Take-Two, it just wasn't worth getting to the finish line. But we also know that they canceled a lot of DLC and all kinds of stuff was happening then. So maybe the Switch port got pushed to the back burner a bit, but now it's full speed ahead seemingly for GTA 6. So maybe they'll make the move and get that over to Nintendo's next system. Years and years from now, I guess. We'll see. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, How do you primarily connect to the internet with your console and gaming PC? Okay, 58% say wireless, 42% say wired. This doesn't surprise me much with wireless just because it is so convenient to not have to run cables around your house, or you just connect to your Wi-Fi and you go, right? That's it. But I did have this conversation with Nate, and his Xbox was connected wirelessly, and that actually surprised me a bit. I feel like a lot of enthusiasts, or I say power users, maybe have really nice gaming PCs, would just connect wired. Like, and that's it. Just run an Ethernet cable. Don't deal with any kind of interference or weird or jitters or anything. When you're connected to your router, you'll wire it and you're done. And that's kind of how I set everything up personally. It's just, I just plug it in. I have stuff run through the house and it just comes out the basement where the switch is, and that's it. But I am curious. Let me know down below in the comments if you have your game console, your PC hooked up wireless, or if you have it all wired up through Ethernet. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Boss Fight Wiki. Says, wouldn't predictive assistants mean that games in the future will play themselves even more than they do already? Okay, so this is interesting because the idea would be that the AI, or the artificial intelligence, the accelerator, maybe on a chip on the board, and they'd set all this up that probably gets updated continuously, would be separate from the game and would be able to monitor your moves, your tendencies, and kind of give you advice, right? That's the plan, or button prompts, that kind of thing. I do wonder if we get to a point where this boss is too hard. Can you just do this for me? And then the AI comes in and beats the boss, then hands it back to you. Kind of like having, I guess, an expert gamer really next to you, a pro gamer, and you just hand them the controller. I don't know, that gets into some weird territory of the game, as you mentioned, playing itself. Or what if you're playing an MMO, or you're playing like an RPG where there's grinding involved, and you're like, I don't really feel like farming this stuff or going through battles over and over again to grind out levels. Can you do that for me? And the AI just takes over at night when you're asleep, and you wake up and you're level like 50 or 60 or something in the first area. I guess these are all possibilities in the future, especially with the advancements of artificial intelligence. But then the argument comes up of, what's the point in playing games then at all if you're just going to ask AI to do it for you? I don't know. That'll be a bridge to cross probably next generation. We'll see. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. There's all the Switch 2 rumors getting thrown around, cartridge slots on the dock, Nintendo with cloud gaming. Do you think any of this could actually happen, or has just been kind of a slower time now after the holidays moving into the New Year's? Then also, what about Sony and their 2024? How do you think that is looking, kind of shaping up there? And then Microsoft announced Blade very, very early. Do you think that's a good idea, or should these companies wait maybe to within the year that it's releasing to make that announcement? Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. Hey, I'll see you next year actually on Monday for Newswave.